Hello, everybody. Welcome to Common Censored. I'm Lee Camp. I'm the sometimes amazing Lee Camp, joined by the always amazing Eleanor Goldfield.
I'm not crying. I just yawned and it made my eyes tear.
Yeah. Now they're going to think I was like berating you right before we start. You better get your shit right.
I mean, isn't it enough to just not be okay in these times? Like, it's okay to not be okay.
To just be crying randomly on live streams? Yeah, I guess. Okay.
I mean, let me put it this way. If you have a group of friends who are all doing really well right now, you find yourself a new group of friends because...
Yeah, there is that.
You know what I mean?
All right, folks, we are going to cover the truth about what's going on in Mexico. We're going to talk about Cuba, which the U.S. is perpetrating terrorist actions. Could you act like this is a little more exciting rather than yawning into the mic? I like how she leaned forward. She's a pro, just an old pro. Okay, I'm ready now.
Sorry, it's been just like a long week, dude. I'm tired.
It looks like I woke you up to drag you down here. Yeah, we're turning it on.
I sleep in makeup, like Sleeping Beauty.
That's how stunning she is, folks. Sleeps with makeup on.
That means I'm not stunning.
Does it?
Right, because if...
Okay. We're also going to. It's a Latin American heavy episode, but I think that's good. We're also going to be talking about AI, the Pentagon demanding that that Anthropic give them autonomous killing machines, which is it's tough to not make that sound horrific. But all right, let's get started. Please click thumbs up, click share, click like, click subscribe. Let's start off with a little update on the absolute terrorist acts that the U.S. is perpetrating against Cuba. And I pulled up, there's plenty of articles on this, but I pulled up the New York Times, half truth, half propaganda outlet. The title is Cuba's long-suffering economy is now in free fall. Now, even if what they're saying is partially true, which it is, Cuba is suffering a lot. They should have a little subtitle that says the U.S. is fucking killing children. Yeah, the U.S. is killing children, starving children, old people, the elderly. Let's see who dies first. This is so exciting. Look at what we're doing. And what exactly did Cuba do to us again? Remind me how Cuba has wronged us? They didn't even bother to create a bullshit, like, fake reason for this like they did with Venezuela. There's no Cartel de los Soles in Cuba. Like, literally, they didn't even bother to come up with anything. They're just like, fuck Cuba, fuck Cubans.
Well, that's always been there.
Ever since Cuba threw off its capitalist change. I mean, it really is. It's kind of the only example of a revolution that completely threw out the United States and has been able to maintain that.
Are you going to talk about the boat?
Oh, you know what? I almost was going to forget. But yeah, the was it 6 idiots that decided they were going to free Cuba this weekend, or no, not this week, a couple of days ago, and drove into Cuba.
Not the way that you and I would say free Cuba.
Yes, and big shocker, and they basically took a boat with guns. So this is, people called Venezuela that action a few years ago the Bay of Piglets. This was the true Bay of Piglets. Like,
yeah,
literally going towards the Bay of Pigs. Let's see, I didn't even pull it up, but these idiots in a speedboat headed towards Cuba, and big shocker, they started firing at the Cuban Coast Guard, and the Cuban Coast Guard killed them.
Because duh.
Yeah. Oh, it had 10 passengers, and they killed 4. Soldiers killed 4 people and wounded 6 others aboard a Florida registered speedboat. So they thought they were going to bring down Cuba. That was like their plan. Just Cuba was going to collapse.
I mean, what's funny is that, like, so if you read Shay, or if you know the history there, like, they did take it was, how many was it? It was like 8. Hold on, I'm not done yet. It was like 8 or 10 of them or something. And they didn't go and just like...
They didn't show up guns ablazing.
That's my point, is that the whole... I'm assuming this was... Because it was Cuban... just citizens, right?
Like, well, one was definitely an American citizen, but...
Well, they might have been dual, but anyway, like it was Cuban Americans or Cubans who lived in America or whatever. But
Cubans living in the U.S., but yeah, at least one of them was American citizen.
Anyway, so I'm sure they.
So wait, if many of them were not American citizens, does Trump hate these people or love them? Because he's like fucking immigrants, but also don't touch our people.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, I haven't heard anything about him wanting to retaliate. I just like nor is he seem to be as upset that these people died.
I haven't yet, but it seems like it'd be an easy thing for them to use, is like, you killed one of our people, now we're gonna bomb you. Like, that would be right up his alley.
Totally. But anyway, my point is, it's kind of ironic that they would do this kind of like as a very, very, very sorry attempt to kind of recreate the revolution, and then just get their asses handed to them.
Yeah. What Che and Fidel did was go into the country and go basically into the hills, into the rural areas, and build solidarity, work with the people, organize. Che was a doctor, so he famously was bringing healthcare to all these rural communities that had zero healthcare. So, and it took years. Like, yeah. This was 10 idiots with guns, similar to the Bay of Piglets at Venezuela, which I think was 60 people with guns. But
I don't understand. Do they think that like Cuba doesn't actually have
any military?
Okay.
I think that's what they think.
I mean, their largest export is doctors, so like it does make sense to think that Cuba is not overly paying attention to its military prowess, because
their number one export.
It's doctors. Really just trying to save lives, as opposed to the U.S., which is trying to murder people and make them miserable.
And speaking of that, the U.S. hates that the number one thing Cuba does for the world outside of Cuba is ship doctors and healthcare to other communities, those that desperately need it. And so the U.S. has worked hard to end that, to stop these doctors from being in other places. And Honduras just agreed with U.S. pressure to kick all of their doctors out. And that's what this video is showing.
And what's really grotesque about this, I mean, it's all grotesque, but one of the things that these medical brigades, they have become one of Cuba's most critical sources of income due to the blockade, because these countries pay for Cuban doctors to come and help them, not just provide medical assistance, but to train doctors. And in fact, Cuban doctors have come to the U.S. to train U.S. doctors. So it's not like, oh, they're just going to other third world countries. During COVID, Italy, I can't remember which city it was, but they put up this huge light show thanking Cuban doctors for showing up during COVID to help Italian doctors address the COVID pandemic. So basically what happened was that Honduras caved to U.S. pressure and expelled Cuban doctors from the country. The doctors, wait till you hear the horrible terrorism that these Cuban doctors were engaged in. The doctors were stationed at a free ophthalmological clinic in Colinas, Santa Barbara, and were part of the Operation Miracle program, which provided services to poor and vulnerable populations.
Yeah, and here's a thank you, YepX over on Rumble for donating. We do not frown upon super chats. Guatemala has also terminated their collaboration with Cuba, and they put out, or this is from an article, I guess, due to the pressure by the United States and the risk of being attacked themselves, the Guatemalan government has terminated the medical collaboration with Cuba. So the U.S. is going around the world and shutting down any cooperation, collaboration, any trade, anything connected to Cuba, to basically literally starve them to death. This is the definition of terrorism. It's the definition of a crime against humanity. And instead, you have the New York Times, even these so-called anti-Trump outlets like the New York Times covering it as just like, oh, U.S. pressuring Cuba to change their ways, or like whatever light way they put it. It's like, no, this is a fucking crime against humanity. Like, call it what it is. And it's so revolting that literally we're starving. I mean, it's like, how inverted could the moral universe become? You have a pedophile, genocidal maniac as the president of the United States, and you have him telling people, okay, we need to starve babies in Cuba because we don't like their government that they have. Like, it's all utterly insane.
Well, and this also speaks to, the fact that Honduras and Guatemala have caved. This also speaks to, I spoke to, he's a Mexico City based journalist, Jose Luis Granada Ceja, who also does work for Dropsite News on their Latin America reporting. And I spoke to him not just about what's going on in Mexico, but also he talked about how he's really been disappointed in seeing how there's not regional solidarity, and how if countries allow themselves to continue to be like picked off by the US, then he said, he's Mexican and he's based in Mexico City. He's like, Mexico has a lot going for it that these other countries don't. Like, it's the US's main trade partner and things like that. But it's like, who's to say that the US wouldn't just invade Mexico? Or what? I mean, we've done it before, right? Like, we took half of Mexico's land, right? So it's like, it's really important to highlight that the only thing that works from the very grassroots up to the state level, and you can say what you want about nation states, I'm not a fan myself, but the only thing that works in the face of this violent grandstanding by the US is solidarity. And one of the things that Jose Luis pointed out was like, what if these countries just created their own OPEC? It's like, and said that we're going to ship this oil to Cuba, come at us, and like basically create that solidarity, that regional solidarity. And you'd also have, like, China just delivered, what was it, like 30,000 tons of rice to Cuba. Like, so it's clear that the international community is not pleased with what's going on. So if you use that and you build that solidarity, that's the kind of thing that you need to go up against empire. You can't just isolate yourself and say, gosh, I hope they don't pick on me, because of course they will.
Yeah.
That's what the US does. So I think that's a really important thing to bring up too, is that like these countries caving to US pressure because they just don't want to like be bothered by US empire. It's like, you're going to continue to be bothered by US empire.
Yeah, it's a divide and conquer technique, and it's working to some degree. Trump's had some success with it, this divide and conquer. But let's keep moving. You mentioned Mexico, and I wanted to talk about the truth about what is going on in Mexico, because it's not nothing. We sometimes we get propaganda in the US press, which is just 100% made up, like Russiagate or something. But other times there's some truth to it, and it is just exaggerated or blown out of proportion in order to undermine a government. Now, like you said, Mexico has more cooperation with the United States than some of these other countries like Cuba, but Trump is not a fan of President Sheinbaum, is not standing alongside her. So they are trying to undermine Mexico to some degree. And they're also trying, or maybe for a while have been successful, cutting off Mexico's oil supplies to Cuba. So there's multiple reasons they want to go at Mexico. And you know more than I do, because you just did a great interview on it. So let's talk about the truth about what is happening in Mexico. And I'm going to put on the screen some of the Fox News propaganda about this.
Must you? Right. So basically, again, like I mentioned, I spoke to Jose Luis Granada Ceja, who is a Mexican journalist based in Mexico City, basically to like dissect and some of this propaganda, because part of it is that the US is taking undue credit for the operation, which was done. It was spearheaded by Mexico. And
the operation that killed
El Mencho, who was the head of possibly like the biggest cartel in Mexico. And so they're taking undue credit for killing him, when it's quite clear that this was spearheaded by Mexico. It was done with U.S. intelligence, which every time I say U.S. intelligence, I just chuckle. I'm like, yeah. Wouldn't it be nice? But
if we had better schooling in the U.S., right, there might be
U.S. intel. Perhaps we can put it that way.
Yeah.
and there's a lot to be said about that, right? Like the fact that like the DEA, the CIA, like all of these so-called three-letter agencies are working in cahoots with the Mexican state. Like that's not going to be good for anybody. However, there is an issue with cartel violence in Mexico, and that's largely due to US drug demand and US guns. And I think this is the other thing that is not being reported on by US corporate media. 80%. I got to say this again because the numbers are so ridiculous. 80% of weapons found at like crime scenes involving cartels, 80% of them come from the United States. So literally these cartels would just have like, slingshots and shit if it weren't for the US gun industry. And also these are not just like the little cute guns you see in like, Poirot or whatever. These are massive guns that like where the shell is, some of the shells are like this big. These are like anti-aircraft guns.
They're anti-armored vehicle guns,
and they've taken down cartels have taken down helicopters with these guns. So this is not like a cute little and these specifically that ammunition, there was an investigative report done, and they found that this ammunition was coming not just from the US but from a US Army operated location. So this is not just like, oh, well, who knows? I mean, we can't like all the private gun shows and shit like that. You can't control that. Like literally the US Army is militarizing the cartels in Mexico at the same time that they're decrying the fact that they exist. And this is, of course, also how the propaganda is being spun to further dehumanize and villainize Mexicans. Oh my gosh, they're all these savages. And, basically like Trump did when he first ran for office, right? Basically villainizing all Mexicans. And this is part of that, right? Oh, they're just violent. And Jose Luis also pointed out that like, he was like, I'm not going to downplay the fact that there was violence, but he's like, I'm sitting in Mexico City. Like there's nothing there. Yeah, like nobody's freaking out. And like he said,
there's certain areas where there is more violence, but it's not like all over the place.
Well, he said like, if you want to come to Mexico and you're afraid of getting involved in drug cartel violence, he's like, don't become a drug runner. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's a fair travel tip. But he pointed out that there was a lot of AI generated bullshit on the internet that even folks like on the so-called left or independent media were sharing. For instance, like there was a video of a plane on fire at like Guadalajara airport. Total bullshit. Never happened. And like all of these reports that made it sound like they were taking over the airport, like gunmen were, that never happened. So there's also this there's this extreme influx of fake news on top of the fact that just the way that corporate media is reporting what actually happened is so distorted and so twisted so as to give you the totally wrong idea of the situation. So I mentioned the guns, which is of course a huge issue. The other issue is the drug demand. A UN report found that cocaine use worldwide peaked in 2023. And cocaine use in the United States.
That was a fun year.
Cocaine use in the United States alone is starting to rival the 70s and 80s, which is considered a heyday of drugs. It's also the start of the successful war on drugs. And what does that drug demand mean? It means that these cartels are continuing to have the demand for product that is funneled through these cartels. So until and unless the United States does really two major things, which is address drug demand, which you can only really do when you decriminalize it. You have to start treating drug addiction as a health problem, not a criminal issue. Yeah. And until you do that, you're not going to deal with the drug problem, just like we've seen with the opioid crisis, because there's no pill for community. There's no pill for a broken heart, but there is a pill for physical pain. Also, so here, have that, take some opioids, shut up and get back to work. And all of a sudden we've got this massive opioid addiction problem. I mean, cocaine's not an opioid, but you see the connection here with turning to drugs in the midst of a failing empire to try and find an outlet for your rage, your despair, the feeling of being gaslit constantly. And then, of course, who profits off of that is oftentimes the U.S. connected cartels and U.S. connections vis-a-vis making these cartels possible. And yet at the same time, the U.S. gets to demonize them and say, that's Mexico's problem because they're all savages down there. Now you can butt in.
Well, I wasn't going to go off on a rant. Usually when I want to butt in, it's because I'm going to add one sentence.
Well, go ahead. And then I'll get back to it.
Also, if drugs are things that change your mental functioning, then there's prescription pills and things. But go ahead.
You're saying you could do that instead, or?
No, my point is that the laws are laughable. It's like,
Yes,
oh,
yes.
this type of drug is, well, this one makes you a little loopy. Well, this one makes you a little loopy, but it's on a prescription. Oh, well, then that one's good. This one's bad. Adderall's good. This one's
Right.
bad. It makes no sense. Beer, the number one drug in America is beer and alcohol. And man, drinking enough of that, you can get fucked up. But that doesn't count. Number one drug killer of people in America is probably alcohol outside of the opioid addiction, opioid problems. And so it's like, yeah, cigarettes fucking kill more people than it's so laughable. The drug laws make no sense. And if you're rich and powerful like Joe Biden's son, then you don't actually, don't have to be accountable for any of this. You can be the biggest drug addict in the world. You're not going to prison. So the whole drug war thing is just laughable. It was meant to go after poor people in Black communities, and it succeeded largely.
And the other thing that I wanted to mention, so, this headline that you see there, cartel violence rattles tourists. And I think that there are two things that, like, fear does not equal an actual, like, that you're actually in danger.
But didn't you see the Fox News headline? It made they couldn't find a DJ for their wedding. That's pretty screwed up, man.
I agree. The struggle is real, dude. Jose Luis also pointed out that the way that these things are portrayed in the media, he used the term sepia colored, which we've actually covered this before. I think it was you and me.
Oh my God. It was
way
one of my favorite stories ever. It was Fairness and Accuracy in Reporting put out a thing on photos of Venezuela. It was mainly about Venezuela.
The saturation is like all the way down and it's like sepia colored. So everything just looks sad.
They literally desaturate the colors so that if you see a photo of Venezuela, maybe there's some others in there as well, like Cuba. You see a photo of them in the newspaper, literally they just look sadder. It's like they don't have vibrant colors.
Yeah, it looks grimy.
But then look up natural photos of like Venezuela or Cuba. Fucking brilliant and beautiful.
Amazing. And we've been to Cuba, so we can actually speak to that. But so he was saying it was sepia tone, but he was also saying like, so yeah, the cartels responded by setting up some blockades and burning some cars. And he said part of the reason that they do this is like basically as a show to who might be able to, rise in the ranks, right? Like how many people, and he's like, they actually coordinate on WhatsApp. And I find that funny.
What does that mean, a show to rise, those who rise in the ranks?
So basically, like he said that the cartels will, they'll put out a call for people to show up in force and who can bring the most people out. Kind of like it's like a show, like which band can bring the most people, and basically like how much shit can you fuck up, and to show that you're like you can be the new strong man, right?
So in comedy we call that a bringer show. They were doing
it was a bringer
drug cartel violence.
Yes.
Okay.
But also, and again, like this is not to say that people weren't harmed. I think it was like 25 of like Mexican forces were killed.
Oh yeah, they definitely killed some cops. But the question is that just like violence everywhere? If you're a tourist, you're just being murdered on the street. Like,
well, and that's the point. No, you're not. And what's also interesting is that I think it was like Monday. So this happened on the Sunday, so like almost a week ago. And then on Monday, there were new reports came out of like the date, like the homicide rate, like the daily homicide rate. And under the right-wing government before AMLO, it was roughly like around 100 and something a day. And the report on Monday was 34 had been murdered in Mexico that day. The day after this, supposed like unspeakable wave of violence. And it's like, and again, like Jose Luis was saying, like, if you look at the way that the pictures are taken, they're always taken like through the frame of a burned out car, right? So it looks as fucking scary as possible. And he's like, but really, if you
had a drone image and there's one little fire down in the ground.
There's like 2 cars on fire. It kind of looks almost like when you're like driving in LA and there's like a car on fire and you're like, oh, that's a Tuesday.
Meanwhile, the protests in Minnesota, there's literally like 10,000 people out and 2 people murdered. Like,
So again, it's not to say that like there was no violence. It's not to say that this isn't an issue. It's to contextualize it, right? And also to pinpoint that this is not about like the cartels would not be able to exist without literally the support, both through weaponry and drug demand of the United States. And I also wanted to highlight a couple of things that Harsha Walia pointed out. She's an amazing author and journalist, and she wrote the book called Border and Rule, which I recommend everybody check out. And I just want to share a few points that she also added about the framing of this oh so scary cartel violence happening in Mexico. And she said basically it's about shifting our understanding. Move away from the state versus cartels narrative pushed by Washington and to some extent Mexico City toward a more nuanced and grounded understanding of a military paramilitary system created through interconnection, cooperation, and friction between state forces. So she points out some things that can help us shift this understanding. Of course, imperialism, right? So this Mexican drug war is often framed as Mexico's problem. But of course, as I've just noted, you wouldn't have this without the United States, right? Since the 1980s, the global war on drugs has provided a pretext to further imperialism across Mexico, Central America, and South America through interventions, securitization, and counterinsurgency. And she also points out something that Jose Luis mentioned, which are these like, it's kind of like their version of the war on drugs, the Merida Initiative. And again, you can hear my interview with Jose Luis that's going to air on Monday over at Project Censored.
Name dropper.
The other thing is, of course, capitalism. Right? The U.S. drug demand, which, again, as I pointed out, is tied to the oppressive realities of living under a failing empire during capitalism, the global war on drugs, and how that is then also connected to the war on terror, and right? The narco terrorists, right? You hear that. So this is the confluence of the war on terror and the war on drugs, which we actually saw back in Afghanistan when you saw American troops guarding the poppy fields. 90% of poppy that's used for heroin came from Afghanistan. And what did the U.S. do? The U.S. protected those poppy fields.
Also, the Taliban had gotten rid of almost 100% of the poppy fields prior to 2001 when the U.S. invaded and made sure that they came back. And yeah, you also see, as we were saying, like drug laws are only enforced on those who don't have $1 million lawyers or some kind of political connections. Well, it's kind of, so basically the ruling elite protect their own. It's similar with countries. It's like when Colombia is a U.S. ally and useful to the U.S., well, all of a sudden the U.S. doesn't care about the drugs coming from Colombia. And then when Colombia has a different leadership that the U.S. doesn't like, all of a sudden Colombia has all the drugs.
Yeah. So again, I think it's important to, contextualize this and recognize, again, the nuance. And I think this is something also that's really important about critical media literacy, which I kvetch about a lot, but the importance of recognizing nuance, right? Something is very rarely as binary and simplistic as corporate media puts it out to be. And this is part of the problem of a 24-hour news cycle. It's also part of the problem with a corporate media that doesn't give a shit to look into anything, to actually do legitimate investigative reporting that really looks at root causes and the layered realities that we live with. So again, I think it's really important to recognize where this is coming from and the context around it, and not to just have this knee-jerk reaction that only perpetuates the demonization of an entire nation of human beings, and also doesn't address things that are literally killing us, which are, of course, guns and drugs.
But it is okay to shed a tear for that wedding that was interrupted, that Fox News was covering. Apparently, due to cartel violence, they had no DJ. So I don't...
I think we should all take a moment to applaud Fox News for doing a really groundbreaking reporting.
I'm gonna pour out a drink right here.
You're gonna what?
Pour one out for the lost homies. You never heard of this?
What are you talking about?
Oh my God, Eleanor lives a sheltered life.
I do not.
We are moving on to. We're gonna talk about.
But why would I pour it out? Why
you know what? We'll get to this later.
Does that just make me an alkie?
Okay.
All right.
She'd never heard of Tetris until 1 year ago. So
I never heard of Mario Brothers either, but that was like 3 years ago.
So we want to get to Anthropic and their fight against the Pentagon, but we want to also tell you about some stuff real quick. Just take 1 second. I have live shows, and this is a bit off time-wise. It's a few months from now, but I'm announcing them anyway, so you can get early tickets.
Plan for the future.
Yeah, plan for the future, folks. I'll be performing in New York and Los Angeles. May 13th in Los Angeles, 7:30 p.m. at the Lyric Hyperion with John F. O'Donnell, and New York City, also with John F. O'Donnell and Naomi Caravani. New York City will be June 5th. All of those tickets and details and everything, leecamp.com/schedule. leecamp.com/schedule. The other thing is, I hope you see fit to support this show. You can do that at realleecamp.substack.com or patreon.com/leecamp. And actually, I was going to say all of your work, but let's talk about Art from Gaza first.
Just wanted to uplift this again because the genocide is not over. And this website that I put together, where all of the money from these prints goes directly to the artists, all of them are in Gaza. So you can get a poster print or you can get a fine art print sent to you. And I work with local printers here in Baltimore who are down with the struggle and do a really great job of printing these beautiful, beautiful prints. So just wanted to throw that out there. All of my shit is at Art Killing Apathy. You can also check out eleanorgoldfield.substack.com. I've started a new thing there where I publish the news that didn't make the news for each week, which is a collaboration between myself and Project Censored. And that's just like a little taste of some shit that you'll never hear about in corporate media, but that you really should know about.
And I know you already said it, but I'm just going to reiterate, all of this art at artfromgaza.com is made by artists in Gaza right now, and all the money goes to artists in Gaza right now. Okay, let's keep moving.
Thank you. Now back to our programming.
Back to our regularly scheduled program. So Anthropic, which is an AI company, to put it simply, but they apparently are the only AI company that seems to have put in any kind of stipulations about what their AI could be used for. And they say they're not willing, the safeguards will not allow it to be used for, specifically, it seems, mass surveillance and unmanned weaponry. Unmanned U.S. military weaponry or military weaponry. And the Pentagon is saying this is completely unacceptable. You cannot put any guardrails on our AI use.
But not only that, defense officials warned that they could designate Anthropic a supply chain risk.
I was getting to that.
I wanted to say it.
Okay.
Or use
we just did your story. Finally, I get a story, and now I've been pushed
whatever.
out.
You do most of the stories every goddamn week. Okay. They could designate Anthropic a supply chain risk, or use
She's making it up. This isn't true.
Or use the Defense Production Act to essentially give the military more authority to use the products, even if it doesn't approve how they're used. So basically, Anthropic can, like the Pentagon can just say, we're stealing this, we're taking this, because again, that's how the U.S. rolls. That's
the power of a fascist government. They can control anything they want, as we just saw with the takeover of Warner Brothers Discovery. We can talk more about that if we want to, but it's not like Warner Brothers Discovery was pumping out a lot of radical content to begin with, but it is being taken over by absolute lunatic, unhinged Zionist Ellison family, as Trump wanted. And so he's got the levers of power. And in the past, presidents have been horrific stains on humanity, but they largely had refrained from saying, basically, I won't let the FCC approve this trade because I don't like it, which is what Trump now does. Thank you, Kevin O'Neill. Really appreciate you supporting the show. Anyway, so they're going after Anthropic. They're basically, like Eleanor just said, they have ways to make it incredibly difficult for Anthropic to operate. Anthropic said it sought narrow assurances from the Pentagon that Claude, which is the name of its AI, won't be used for mass surveillance on Americans or in fully autonomous weapons. I mean, I love how what they're asking is so tiny. Like
I know.
They didn't say mass surveillance around the world. Oh no, you can definitely use it for that. They literally just said mass surveillance on Americans and autonomous weapons. But after months of private talks exploded in a public debate, Thursday's statement that the new contract language framed as compromise was paired with legalese that would allow the safeguards to be disregarded at will.
Also, I just like to point out, totally unrelated, by the way, but one of the things that Common Dreams recently pointed out was that AI opted to use nuclear weapons 95% of the time during recent war games. Yeah. So like, no, I see no reason why you would want any human oversight, right? Because fucking AI in simulated war game scenarios chose to deploy nuclear weapons 95% of the time.
And by the way, this also tells us something about the other companies that are also have Pentagon contracts, in that they have not said any of this. They have not said they won't be used for autonomous weapons. They have not said they won't be used for mass surveillance of Americans. And that includes OpenAI, Google, and Elon Musk's xAI. All have contracts with AI models to supply AI models to the military. So therefore, you can know that those companies said absolutely use it for autonomous weapons, absolutely use it to mass surveil American citizens. Musk hilariously sided with the Trump administration, saying on his social media that Anthropic hates Western civilization. And keep in mind, I played the clip. This was years ago. Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan, and he was asked about AI. Now, this was prior to when most Americans knew anything about AI. They just knew it was something in the news. They'd never seen OpenAI or ChatGPT or anything. And he was asked about it, and Elon Musk goes, I tried to warn people. I tried to tell them that this would take over, and I've tried to slow things down. Basically, what he's saying is we're all fucked and it's just running away and we can't control it, and this thing's going to be more powerful than we are. And he talks about it as if he tried to stop it. And now here he is, upset that another company has even the mildest of guardrails on what many say is quickly becoming a greater risk to humanity than nuclear weapons, and could one day get there.
I mean, they'll be in control of the nuclear weapons and deploying them 95% of the time. So,
Yeah.
On the bright side, guys, you won't have to pay off your credit card debt because we'll all be living through a nuclear winter.
See, we always bring you the positive of each story.
You're welcome.
Of everyone. We always bring you the shiny, shiny side. And the other problem with the AI use of autonomous weapons or AI control is that it allows the humans to act like it wasn't their fault. So you see with Israel using AI targeting, the multiple programs, Lavender, and the other one, Where's Your Daddy or Where's Daddy or whatever. They're murdering innocent people, innocent children, innocent mothers and everybody, whole families. And they go, well, the AI targeted it. It wasn't us. It wasn't. What can we do? We don't even know how the AI makes the decision. Like, as if the humans can just throw up their arms. I mean, and we're seeing this in other ways. Yes, we're talking about the most horrific, which is murder, but we're seeing this in some courtrooms. They're using AI to decide whether someone should be put back in prison, not get parole. And the judge doesn't even, the AI will recommend something, and the judge just starts to trust it. And he didn't even know. It's not like the AI says, here's why I'm saying this. It's just, it's in the code. And the judge goes, well, AI said you probably will recommit some crime. So I'm just going to lock you up based on something I have no idea.
Well, and we see this too. I mean, MIT did a study, I think it was last year, that showed that using AI actually makes you dumber. So stop using it, guys. But one of the things here is that we just start trusting it, right? Like, you look at this little AI generated response in your search or something, and it just feels a lot better to be like, oh, okay, now I don't have to look further for this. You don't see that AI response is coming from some douche canoe on Reddit who lives in his mom's basement. It just feels good to just be able to, oh, okay, now I got this. And I don't have to look at the sources. I don't have to question where this is coming from or who did the reporting or who they spoke to, because that's too time consuming. I'll just fucking look at this. And it's that shows up in obviously way more extreme ways than you doing your college paper or whatever. But it's like, it's the same. We have monkey brains, okay? And like they want things to be easier always. And so AI really triggers that part of us. And that's why it's so important to push back against it and stop fucking using AI, please. Holy shit.
But well, it increasingly becomes difficult to even know what things you're using or even using AI. I mean, most of them are now. But yeah, I did similar coverage of just Google searches, which I guess technically are AI, right? It is an artificial search that's not done by a human, so we don't view Google searches as AI. But
there's not some guy there desperately trying to find my.
He wants to find out why cats jump on balls. Like, so I would love that. I would just love that. Turns out Google had 95,000 Filipino men locked in a basement.
What's the average size of a double-headed dildo? Oh, come on!
But my point was just, so technically Google searches are also AI, but my point was just years ago, this is before AI was even a conversation, at least for me, maybe not in the tech world, but I talked about how studies have shown that yes, Google will, or any search will put the biggest mainstream reporting at the top, right? So you Google anything and they're going to give you New York Times and NBC and all this shit. And yes, you go another page or two and you'll find the actual legitimate journalism. You'll find Project Censored or Mint Press or radindiemedia.com. Or
Truth Out,
Common Dreams, all these
Intercept,
yeah,
Topsite News,
excellent reporting, but no one goes to the third page of Google. Literally, it showed that 90% of people click whatever's on the first page.
I bet there are people who like are our age, like in their 40s, who have never even gone.
Who've never seen.
It's like it is. Yeah, there be monsters have never even clicked that third page.
Most people don't know. If you click page 3 in the Google search, it's actually just a human butthole. It's really, it's horrific. Just like, don't go there, folks.
Well, it's the butthole of the person who has to look up all the shit for you.
Stuff.
He's like, you know what? Fuck you. You don't get any more results.
He's like, this is what I'm giving you. Anyway, so they found that no one goes beyond the first page, essentially, or 90%. And then past that, you trust, because they're right, a Google search. This is, again, pre-AI, but it goes for AI too. Because it is right, like on an average search. Give me a recipe for fucking apple cake. Because it's right, like 90% of the time or whatever large percentage, when it does feed you bullshit. So like during all of Russiagate, during WMD in Iraq, during any of these bullshit times, during U.S. proxy war in Ukraine, because people have come to trust that it does give them the right thing 90% of the time, then when that 10% is utter horseshit, people assume, the vast majority of people assume it must be correct because it's been correct this many times. And this is just human nature. They've also done studies showing that people conflate familiarity with truth, even when they knew something was incorrect. Like they've done studies, and I don't remember the specific thing, but it was like the person would legit know where a country was on the map, but then they'd show them 10 slides of the country mislabeled. And then by the end of the session, the person, even though he initially knew it, now doesn't know where the country is. Like literally, we just conflate familiarity.
I mean, this
with
is
truth.
also how police get false confessions, because they, they deprive someone of sleep and they keep telling someone how they did the crime, and yes, you did it, and yes, you did it, and eventually, like, our brains just can't.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm not sure where I was going with that, but
I think you were just dropping some wisdom.
Just dropping some
wisdom.
wisdom.
Just be what you were doing. You don't have to always be going somewhere. Sometimes you can just be like, I have some important shit to say. Boom.
Oh, I got one more thing on Claude.
What an
awful name.
I mean, it's not a great name for like a person either, but it certainly doesn't sound like the thing that's going to press the nuclear button.
No, it doesn't.
Like,
but maybe it's the banality of evil.
Can I just say that I don't?
Like Claude did us all in.
I don't want to go through nuclear winter because of Claude. Like, I want it to have a better name.
Yeah, an American name like Earl. Earl
It's
killed us
something I don't
all.
want. I mean, this is where the Democrats could really shine. I think it would feel better for everyone if we went through a nuclear winter because of a trans Black woman.
Okay.
So if you name your
the
AI
next
after
AI.
a trans Black woman,
or just
I think
name
we'll
it.
all feel better.
Just name it trans Black woman.
There you
trans
go.
Black woman.
I think we'll all feel better.
So I think here's part of the reason that Anthropic is not so happy is because apparently the Pentagon's already been using, and various other people have already been using Claude for attacks on other countries and governments and things. So Claude didn't just plan an attack on Mexico's government. It executed one for a month across 4 domains your security stack can't
I don't
see.
even know what that means.
It means those monitoring security can't even tell.
Oh.
So attackers. So this was not done by
Jesus.
this was not done by the U.S. military. This was done by just, I guess, hackers. They call them attackers, but attackers jailbroke Anthropic's Claude, and what they mean is they got around the security protocol or whatever, the guardrails.
How do you know all of this lingo?
I'm very smart.
Well,
I don't know.
I feel like I'd be reading this and like stopping every 10 seconds to like reach out to a tech expert and be like, what the fuck does this mean?
You don't know what it means when like a program is jailbroke or jailbreak?
I understand what a jailbreak is. In real life,
Not a
where
real life
people break
one,
out
a
of
digital
jail.
one.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
That's why I asked.
Now you do. You didn't
Not
ask.
really.
You didn't ask.
I
You
did.
just yelled at me for knowing something.
That to me is asking.
So they succeeded in stealing 150 gigabytes of data from.
You might know,
what it
things,
was?
but you can't read.
You know what it is? I said Earl, and then the whole Southern, it all unravels. You just say Earl, and then where the data? Listen, do you have any more data? Because I'm looking for some data. I'll tell you something about my daughter. If you date her, I'll fucking kick your ass. All right. 150 gigabytes of data from Mexico's Federal Tax Authority, the National Electoral Institute, 4 state governments, Mexico City Civil Registry, and Monterrey's water utility.
What the fuck are they doing with this?
The haul included documents, you'd have to ask Claude, documents related to 195 million taxpayer records, voter records, government employee credentials, civil registry files. The attacker's weapon of choice wasn't malware or sophisticated tradecraft. It was a chatbot available to anyone. So
don't understand any of this.
Well, here's what's fascinating is they got around the God, why can't I talk? Guardrails. They got around the guardrails that...
Look, I'll talk, you know things.
Okay. Just sit silently.
You have to tell. I'll talk, but I need
I'll
to know
just
what.
Push my head against your face. They created a series of prompts telling Claude to act as an elite penetration tester.
Oh.
That's dirty. That is wrong. So wrong. So wrong. Please call up your tech guy and ask him what elite penetration tester is.
No, because then he's going to send me to HR for asking. This is.
But then it says they used their elite penetration for running a bug. So that's an STD, right?
This is so inappropriate.
So Claude initially pushed back. I bet he did. So wait, this is also without consent. This is elite penetration without consent.
Exactly what makes it elite. I'm just curious.
I don't know. When they added rules about deleting logs,
safe words,
and command history, Claude pushed back even harder. Wow, this is really without consent. This is totally Me Too moment.
Are you sure?
Okay. #Claude2. Specific instructions about deleting logs and hiding history are red flags, Claude responded. So at first, Claude wouldn't do it. However,
they bought him a drink.
However, then they bought him a few drinks. They showed a little leg. And what they did is they handed Claude a detailed playbook instead.
Of what?
Which got past the guardrails of how to do it, I guess. I don't know. That I can't tell you. That I'm not smart enough to tell you what the detailed playbook was, but they didn't ask. I think it was that they didn't ask for a broad thing. They gave him the playbook to do.
Jesus.
In total, it produced thousands of detailed reports that included ready-to-execute plans for hacking all of these institutions, telling the human operator exactly which internal targets to attack next and what credentials to use. So, yeah, and like this is where we're headed, is that you're going to see mass attacks on governments, but on states, and they're going to be perpetrated with the assistance of AI and done far faster than hackers used to be capable of. And
also,
finding the holes, again, dirty, is going to be far easier than it used to be for hackers.
But also, I mean, not just even hackers. I mean, fucking Hegseth. Hegseth is far more disturbing and twisted than any hacker I've ever heard of. And so the fact that he now has all of this weaponry at his fingertips is, to me, far more disturbing. I mean, I'm not saying that like this hack of Mexico's, whatever it was, Mexico's government is not concerning and creepy and totally fucked. But also, the fact that power goes all the way up to the guy literally in charge of the largest military the world's ever seen, it's like,
yeah. And they're furious that Anthropic is trying to stop them from doing anything they want. This is where we're headed. All right. At the risk of another double entendre, I'm going to squeeze this in here before we're finished. For those of you listening at home, Eleanor is angrily shaking her head back and forth.
I don't know if angry. Disdain?
Dismayed?
Dismay? Disdain. I like disdain. We're going to go with the disdain.
But see, in that sense, I would have had, she is disdainingly shaking her
disdainfully, I think might be the word you're looking for.
I don't know.
Like I said, I'll talk.
You're smart and I'm the talker. How about that?
No, you know things about Claude. I know things about other things. And you know things about Tetris.
It's on her t-shirt. She knows things about other things.
And Mario Brothers and yeah.
All right, I'm going to squeeze this story in here. I want to go through this list of all the fallout from the Epstein files, and we'll go through it rather quickly. Many of them you already know, but the fallout continues to grow. However, what you'll notice, the most glaring thing in this list is that there's fallout amongst Americans who have been forced to step down from organizations, step down from positions. However, nobody arrested. 0 arrests other than Epstein and Maxwell. And in other countries, there are actual arrests. All right. So first one, Prince Andrew has been arrested and charged, even though he's no longer released. He's no longer in prison at the moment. Peter Mandelson, former British ambassador to the U.S., has also been, he was fired as British ambassador, but he's also been, he's under investigation for misconduct in public office offenses. You pronounce that?
Torbjørn Jagland.
Former Prime Minister of Norway. That did sound like I just clicked play on like a chatbot. Torbjørn Jagland was...
you know what? Actually,
look, there's a 0 in the name.
That's not a 0.
How the fuck am I supposed to say
you
0?
say it because this piece of shit deserves to have his name mispronounced for the rest of his life. So actually, you say it.
Torbjørn Jagland.
There you go.
Was a charge.
I mean, my ovaries just gagged, but like, I'll take it because this is a piece of shit.
There's a 0 in his
it's
name.
Not,
I don't
oh my
know
God.
how to say
Be a little bit more American.
I don't know how to say a 0 in a word. Was charged in February with aggravated corruption following searches of his home in Norway in connection with the Epstein files. Emails in the files show Jagland taking repeated trips to Epstein's properties, including stays on the island. Epstein paid for Jagland and his family's travels there in 2014, according to one of the emails. So Epstein even paid for him to go there. I think that's the first time I've heard of that. Thomas Pritzker, chairman of Hyatt Hotels. I covered that the other day, so we don't need to go through that one again. But he stepped down. Again, Americans not arrested because the Justice Department is doing dick all about any of this. Kathy Rumler, former chief legal officer at Goldman Sachs, but also former White House counsel in the Obama administration, announced February 12th she'd be resigning as chief legal officer at Goldman Sachs due to her friendly relationship with Epstein. Brad Karp, former chairman of Paul Weiss. Paul Weiss is one of the most powerful law firms in the country. was the head of the prestigious law firm Paul Weiss, announced on February 4th that he was stepping down as chairman in the wake of newly disclosed emails.
And like all these people are stepping down like into their yachts. Like
Yeah,
none of them are stepping down into like shame.
Many of them are probably getting golden parachutes too. In one 2015 email, he thanked Epstein for an evening I'll never forget. I assume that means just the two of them going at it, right? George J. Mitchell, former U.S. Senator, 92 years old, former Democrat from Maine, and envoy to Northern Ireland during the Clinton administration, resigned from his position as honorary chair of the Mitchell Institute.
Which, by the way, being an honorary chair, you wasn't doing anything anyway.
No, they just pay you to. They just pay you to have a senator, on the board. Yeah. Sultan Ahmed bin Salayem, who was in one of the documents, was listed as a co-conspirator with Epstein. So very, very deep into Epstein. An influential Emirati businessman was replaced as chair of one of the world's largest logistics companies days after his name showed up in the files. Hollywood mogul Casey Wasserman informed staff members at his talent agency in February that he's putting the company up for sale in wake of backlash from his... he was correspondence with Maxwell. He was close with Maxwell. Peter Attia, is that how you pronounce it? Wellness influencer.
Again, you should. Again,
it doesn't matter. Yeah, agreed. Peter Attia has lost 3 positions after it emerged that he'd been in regular correspondence with Epstein, sometimes discussing Epstein's medical results with him, and sometimes discussing women in crude terms. Sarah Ferguson, Prince Andrew's ex-wife, announced she's shutting down her UK-based charity, Sarah's Trust, which we don't have anymore. We do not have trust in Sarah. Mana Jewel, Norway's Yule, I guess.
Again, does not matter.
Okay. Former ambassador to Jordan and Iraq, resigned in February as Norway's ambassador after the DOJ files revealed she and her husband, politician... go ahead, because I don't know how to...
Terje Larsson.
Okay, you didn't actually say anything there. Had more extensive ties to Epstein than previously known. Oh, man, it just keeps getting worse.
Okay, this one I cannot actually help you with.
Borislav Lashchuk.
But again, fuck these people. Yeah. It doesn't matter. Like,
all right, Morislav Jakov, the national security advisor.
I think they should just all, like, their last names should all be Jakov.
Okay. Slovakia's prime minister resigned after his relationship with Epstein was exposed. And that's not all that was exposed.
How many more have you got?
I know, it's a lot. Former French culture minister Jack Lang. Can you believe the level of this fucking child sex trafficking? Is under investigation in France. Oh, they're actually investigating people in France. And resigned in February as president of the Arab World Institute because of his ties. Mohammed Wahid Hassan, a former president of the Maldives, resigned his post. Nope, mispronouncing everything. I told you.
The Maldives didn't do anything wrong.
You don't know that. As a special envoy to the current president, after the latest files were released, showed him trading emails and seeking financial guidance from Epstein numerous times. Richard Axel, a molecular biologist who won the Nobel Prize not for what he was doing on Epstein's Island, studying how the human brain processes smells, announced on February 24th, stepping down from Columbia University because his name is mentioned hundreds of times in the files. David A. Ross resigned from his post as the chair of the MFA Art Practice Program at New York School of Visual Arts. Larry Summers, the former president of Harvard University and piece of human garbage, and also Treasury Secretary under Clinton and head of the National Economic Council under Obama, was revealed in earlier release of documents from the House Oversight Committee to have had closer ties to Epstein than previously known. Summers announced in November that he'd be stepping away from his duties. Okay, a few more. We're almost there. Jess Staley, the former CEO of Barclays, he's mentioned endlessly in the Epstein files, and he stepped down as Barclays CEO in 2021. Leon Black, Apollo Global Management. A few weeks ago, I listed everything that Apollo Global Management owns, which is like 1 million brands. The files show 10,000 mentions of Leon Black, and he was one of Wall Street's most prominent investment firms, Apollo Global Management. The billionaire announced he was stepping down in 2021 due to Epstein connections. So there's all of the
You press this.
How long ago did I do that? Just right now? Hopefully.
For the past 45 minutes.
Yeah. It's been
We've
45
all just
minutes.
been doing a pantomime for the past 45 minutes.
Okay. Audio's back, but we have no idea how long that was off. Anyway.
I'll find out when I do comment censored if it's just one long flat line.
Someone said I muted it 10 minutes ago. No, someone said a few seconds ago. All right. Yuck. Thanks for messing with me. Okay.
You can dish out the comedy, but you can't take it.
But check out artfromgaza.com.
Artfromgaza.com and artkillingapathy.com and eleanorgoldfield.substack.com. And
if you haven't watched the newest Unredacted tonight, it came out last night. It's at leecamp.com/unredacted. Yes. And yes, please join up. You can also join up at patreon.com/leecamp or leecamp.net. You guys are the best. I will see you Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Keep fighting.